What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. Tonight on the #1 college football show, we are going to recap Oklahoma losing to Kansas State. I have feelings about this. We're going to talk about Tennessee pulling out a win against Florida and what the hell is going on with Georgia. Hey, it's time for week 5 of the #1 college football show. Let's go. Okay, so week 5 for me, week 4 for you. We call it week 4. I said week 5. That's on me. Great start to the night, right? I'm out of sorts. Oklahoma's out of sorts. We're in sync, though, because we're drift compatible here in the state of Oklahoma. I watched what you watched. I watched Oklahoma absolutely give it up to Kansas State at home, 41-34. Kansas State stuns #6 Oklahoma. It's right there in my rundown. I wish I was making it up, but I'm not. Adrian Martinez comes into this game averaging 100 yards passing a game. Let me say that again. Averaging 100 yards passing a game. He's 4.6 yards per completion coming into this game. Oklahoma's a 13.5-point favorite. That's 2 touchdowns, people. And what do I get? I get Adrian Martinez absolutely on his Captain Marvel, going binary against my team and my squad. For the second straight year, this man got it up to go beat the hell out of my Oklahoma Sooners. And this time, apparently, it's the purple power that was able to give him his powers in the way that he wasn't able to get them from the Huskers last year. So I got Adrian Martinez, a transfer from Nebraska that Nebraska was not unhappy to see leave, go for 380 yards total against an Oklahoma defense that had been shutting everybody down. 500 yards of offense given up by my Oklahoma Sooners to a Kansas State team that lost to Tulane 70-10 last week. Look, man, you talk to most Oklahoma Sooner fans like myself, they'll tell you there are 2 games now that give us the willies. Used to be 3, but Gary Patterson no longer coaches at Texas Christian, but they're 4-0, so who knows with Sonny Dykes. The other, Texas, because the Red River rivalry is always squirrely, and after the 4 overtime quadruple bypass I had to have, we're due for an L. And now that they've taken a loss against Texas Tech, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, yeah, they're probably going to be coming for our skulls as well. Meanwhile, the only other team to beat Oklahoma more than anybody else in the last decade is the doggone Kansas State Wildcats. I guess Brent Venables took Bill Snyder's text message a little too serious this week. I'm joking. I know Brent is a very serious and intense man, but it sets up the story. And the story is Bill Snyder, who famously does not use technology, decided to text Brent Venables, "Congratulations on beating Nebraska. Get win number 4, but not this week." To which Brent just smiled and giggled and said, "I guess he looked at the schedule." You know who else looked at the schedule? The doggone Kansas State Wildcats. That's who looked at the schedule. We're talking about an Oklahoma team I was gloating about just like 12 hours earlier. Saying, hey, Oklahoma gave up 3 points to Kent State. Look at what Kent State did to Georgia. And then here comes Chris Kleiman. And here comes Colin Klein in his first year as an offensive play caller. Once again, ripping my heart from my chest. Not as a quarterback, but as a play caller for Nebraska Castoff. Now, not only Are my Oklahoma Sooners a one-loss team that I have to dock in the top 25 tomorrow? But the Oklahoma won in the Big 12. And as the delightful producer Cat, who's on a high, I might add, we'll get to in a little bit later. That's for me, November 26th, we have the Kansas State rivalry game with Kansas. Yes, Kansas State has beaten OU 2 of the last 3 times. They have a formula, and they aren't scared. Upset alert. That's from noted USC and Oklahoma destroyer colleague, Matt Leinart, who, put up 55 on my Sooners. Like, everybody's dunking on my Sooners here, man. My goodness. I'm really beside myself because it's been a while since I saw another quarterback rush for 148 yards on 21 carries against Oklahoma. And you know what? The doggone Brent Venables defense. Because the Brent Venables defense that I know about don't give up no 41 points, no 500 yards, no 121 yards rushing to a quarterback at Kansas State. Unless, of course, Colin Klein or L. Roberson, remember him, destroying Oklahoma. You know what? Fair play to the Kansas State Wildcats, who showed up to Norman with a grudge and silenced 85,000 screaming Sooners. My goodness. I did not expect to get beat down at home. I'm like, cool, we got both the Kansas States, both the Kansas teams at home. It's fine. And now I got gambling networks calling my squad fraudulent. And I have no recourse here. Because what else? Here. All I can say is, hopefully it's a one-loss season. But as my Sooners have also decided they want to go play in the SEC, this is probably one of our last 2 opportunities to, win 11, 12 games in a season on a consistent basis. And what do? We blow one in September to Kansas State. Kansas State, full credit to you. I don't mean to be dunking on you in that way, except to say I'm on the losing side of this one, and it hurts. It stinks. Stinks. So, from Oklahoma, Kansas State moving into a tie for first place in the Big 12 with Kansas. My God. Maybe Tyler's on to something. Producer Tyler, another producer for the show, who's like, hey, RJ feels real 2007 up in here. And I'm going, yo, man, when Kansas is a top 10 program, when they finish in like number 3 in the Associated Press Bowl playing the Orange Bowl, call me. You know what Kansas is looking like? Like a doggone top 10 team. They're 4-0. They're 4-0. And Oklahoma's 3-1. When the hell does that happen? I could be here all night and we don't have time for it. But, one of the things that what we do on the show is we take our lumps. We take our beatings on the head. Tyler took one with Notre Dame. Producer Cat is living the high life right now. But then again, it's been Tennessee for 15 years. So, it's my turn is what I'm saying. It's my turn, right? My man Javion, he on the South Carolina. They were getting a hard time from Charlotte tonight. Duke Mayo Bowl, big deal for them, right? And then we got the USC fans over here living their best life, but we'll see about that because as we're doing the show, Oregon State is giving them everything they want to handle. All right, you know who else got everything that they wanted to handle tonight? Wisconsin, okay? Because as my Oklahoma Sooners are getting the beat down by the Kansas State, Wisconsin got the beat down from the Ohio State Buckeyes. Score there is 52-21. The thing to take away from this game is not that Ohio State ho-hummed Wisconsin with 52 points. It's that they did this without their best skill player on the field. Jackson Smith and Jigba missed another game, mostly because they just didn't want to risk him getting any more injured, right? They want to rest him. And Ryan Day's been really consistent about saying, hey, I'm not going to play anybody in that receiving core, Julian Fleming being the other, who's not 100% ready to go. And you know what? He hasn't had to because they're just that deep and they're just that sturdy at Ohio State. It's not that C.J. Stroud was 17 of 27 for 281 yards, 5 TDs, and a pick. It's not even that they had 200-yard rushers in Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams, or that they had a 100-yard receiver in Emeka Egbuka again, right? It's that Jim Leonard has been defensive coordinator at Wisconsin for 6 years. And basically, since he got that job in February 2017, all he has done is demonstrated himself to be one of the best play callers in all of football on either side. It was just a matter of time, or is a matter of time for me, as to when he wants to get a head coaching job, but he seems to be very happy at Wisconsin. Until tonight. The most points that a Wisconsin program had given up with Jim Leonhard as defense coordinator is 41 in the game. Ohio State had scored 45 by the end of the third quarter. Okay? It's different in Columbus. Matter of fact, the joke that I laid out that was not one of my best jokes of the day, if we're just going to be honest about it, but I thought it was good anyway, is it's getting ugly in Columbus. It's going to be on rinse and repeat this year. Because right now, it feels like there are just two teams in the Big Ten, which, by the way, is stout, that can challenge Ohio State. One of them being the Michigan Wolverines talking about, the other one being the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who y'all are finally beginning to see what I see, and we'll talk about them as well. I'll just also say that as much as we knew that the Ohio State offense was going to be outstanding because it was last year and it's been outstanding since Ryan Day became the play caller in 2018, it's also that Jim Knowles' defense has taken so much less time to acclimate. Like, I thought it was going to take them at least a year to get used to the 4-2-5 that he wants to run because it is very complicated. And maybe having Tanner McAllister as a grad transfer from Oklahoma State would help facilitate that. But it hasn't been some. Those dudes are playing fast. They're staying with everybody. They're keeping things in front of them, and they're putting people on the ground. I watched Jack Sawyer take on that Jack linebacker role, and I said, oh, no. They found a place for this man to shine. Because you'll know that Jack Sawyer is one of the better players in the 2021 class. I believe he's number 2 player in the 2021 class, number 1 player in the state of Ohio when he signed with Ohio State. He's playing the position that Colin Oliver played at Oklahoma State last year as a true freshman coming out of Edmond, Santa Fe. That dude had 15.5 tackles for loss and 10.5 sacks as a true freshman. What do you think Jack Sawyer is capable of in that sort of a defense? Doing what Colin Oliver was asked to do. Pass rush. Get after people. And you can do that when you have folks in 3rd and long. And you can certainly do that against folks like Graham Mertz, because as much as we want that dude to be the second coming of Russell Wilson, it just ain't happening. Now, I do want to add Braylon Allen got his in, right? 23 rushes, 165 yards. So later in the game, we might call garbage time. We got to see Braylon Allen shine. Great. But it's still not the Wisconsin team that we had come to know even 4 years ago when we saw what Jonathan Taylor was capable of doing in that offense. Okay. Marvin Harrison, also, what are you doing out here with an Apple Watch on, man? You want to make sure you get all your steps today? Is that what you want? Because I get it. I understand. You want to make sure you get all your steps counted toward your goal. That's one thing to do. But look at this. Look, this reminds me of Odell Beckham Jr. when he was a New York Giant. I believe he's a New York Giant. He had the Richard Millie on. Remember that? Might have been Cleveland. I can't tell. That dude has played with like 4 different teams. One of those pro teams being an LSU team. You get what I'm saying here. Point is, shout out to Marvin Harrison Jr. because he can get it done like that with the Apple Watch on. And that dude's been wrecking people. Like, he's the second coming to David Boston to me. For those of you that don't know, David Boston was a monster wide receiver at Ohio State. Also cock diesel like your man Marvin Harrison Jr. From that Big Ten game, let's move to another Big Ten game. Let's talk a little bit about Michigan beating Maryland 34-27. And what did we learn from this game, right? Because I had been very critical from the jump with Michigan about their schedule and not knowing much about them, right? Even leaving them unranked to start in the preseason. Since moving to the top 5, but nobody wants to give me credit for that because they want to think about what I did in August when nobody played. That said, I think I was right to do it. They were 45-point favorites in every other game they played. They hadn't played a Power 5 team. They're having 2 offensive coordinators where nobody will tell even the guys calling the game who's calling the plays. They traded quarterbacks who were starting, and the only consistency that they had that you could depend on was Blake Corum. And it turned out Blake Corum had to put Michigan on his back to beat Maryland. He went 30 rushes for 243 yards. He's a dude, right? We understand that. Matter of fact, I would like to think that Mike Hart walked in on a recruiting visit for Blake Corum and said, hey, you remind me of me, young man, except you were twice as fast, because it's true. Okay. Outside of that, we got to see Maryland have a little backbone. They went in 3-0, and it felt like if they don't have the fluke football off the face mask on the opening kick, which is recovered by Michigan, they put it into the end zone, and you have a Talia Tagovailoa that doesn't throw an egregious pick, maybe you're in this game in a different way, but that's just not the way it cooked out for you. I didn't think that J.J. McCarthy looked all that great, even as his numbers looked pretty doggone good, right? They didn't ask him to do a bunch, but he also still got them into a lot of trouble that I didn't think they needed to be in. And that's really the criticism for J.J. As good as he is at getting you out of bad situations and making plays happen with his legs that other people can't make, and he made a few of them against Maryland today. He also could put you into some bad situations by holding on the ball or throwing the ball where it shouldn't be going. I'm going to say that Michigan played somebody because I believe that Maryland is a good football team and they are owed that due, and they made it a one-score game covering the spread, I might add. First team to cover the spread against Michigan all year. The spread was like 2 touchdowns, and we're talking about 34-27 here. Other part to take away from this is that if Michigan runs into a team, say like, I don't know, Iowa, when they play them next week on Big Noon Kickoff, who can absolutely stop the run, what's J.J. McCarthy going to do, right? That's my question. Can you depend on J.J. McCarthy to go get you 303 TDs through the air and beat Iowa over the top? Or are you going to try to get into a rock fight with Iowa? Because Iowa has proven that they are more than willing to get into a rock fight with you. They've given up 23 points all season. That is the least amount of points they've given up through their first 4 games since 1956. And they have got the roll safe knowledge going on. You don't need an offense to score if your defense scores, which they did twice against Rutgers tonight. So I'm just saying, you're going to get another test for the Michigan Wolverines this coming Saturday, and one in which I think will reveal more about them and whether or not they can honestly challenge that Ohio State team come Thanksgiving weekend for the Big Ten East title, as I think it's going to go. All right. From that game, quickly to an ACC clash, we got to see really one of the best games of the day all day. Number 5, Clemson rallied to beat number 21, Wake Forest, 51-45 in double OT. Sam Hartman can sling it. I'm going to say it again. Sam Hartman can sling it. And you knew that from last year, but I like seeing the continuity and from one year to the other, and I also like to see the contrast. DJ Uiagalelei also can sling it. So Sam Hartman goes 20-29, 337 yards, 6 TDs through the air, 0 interceptions. DJ Uiagalelei goes 26-41, 371 pass yards, 5 TDs through the air, 0 interceptions. What I want you to remember about this is that Sam Hartman was ranked number 767 in the 2018 recruiting class, and Uiagalelei was ranked number 10. Ball players come from everywhere all the time. You are a ball player. Just keep driving your feet. Keep shoulder pads level. Keep going. It's all right. Sam Hartman came off the bench later after being medically cleared, put up one of the better games that we've ever seen anybody play this year. Just happened to be on a losing end, 51-45. Clemson stays perfect for now, but they still got a North Carolina State team that is going to give them a hard time. From that to an SEC matchup, our second at 3 top 25 matchups today, where we got to see number 11 Tennessee hang on to beat number 20 Florida 38-33, in which I got the little ding-a-ling. Wins don't come easy at Rocky Top. Teams too rocky by far. That's why all the folks on Rocky Top get their corn from a jar. Now, those are also lyrics that are inside of, the Rocky Top anthem that you hear every time they score. Also, Smokey getting lit tonight, right? You know what I'm saying? Because they ain't beat no Florida in like no 6 years. Josh Heupel ain't never beat no Florida ever. Beat every other Florida team. Ain't beat no Florida Gators. And then toward the end, I got to see Jalen Wright not only hit the chop on him, he did the slow slash on him. My goodness. Tennessee feeling themselves. They should be feeling themselves. Check this out. The Gators put up 576 yards of offense in this game. The Vols put up 594 offense in the game, where I might describe it as defense optional. Like, what is that? That's like over 1,100 yards of offense in an SEC East matchup. Also, quietly, Georgia, Tennessee, even Florida, Kentucky, SEC East, getting to be a little bit as deep as the SEC West. Kind of cool there. One other thing I want to add here is Hendon Hooker absolutely is a dude. Right, we're going to have to start talking about him in Heisman Trophy consideration, because Hendon Hooker has given me not just 349 yards passing, 112 yards rushing against a really good Florida football team. He's also given me hope, Tennessee fans, producer cat, earmuffs, that they can beat Alabama for the first time in 15 years in just 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks. If Texas can get close, y'all can get close and possibly win. You got close a couple years ago. Jared Guarantano just fumbles on the goal line. Trayvon Diggs taking 98 yards back to the house. It's there for you. I believe in you, Tennessee. You got my man's Heupel. Torrance Marshall went to go get his Heisman back. He's going to go get you your pride back against Alabama. You get your first win against Alabama since the iPhone was invented. Think about that as we on update number 85 or whatever. All right. From that game, let's move over to one of my favorites of the day. Right? This was on Big Ten Network. Minnesota defeats Michigan State 34-7 to move to 4-0. My favorite part about this is watching the Twitter spaces pop up after, egregious losses, and a Michigan State Twitter space popped up in front of me. And I was like, ooh, it's getting bad over there in East Lansing. But it had to, because if you're looking at the game, you know that it was nasty. It was nastier than 34-7 would lead you to believe. Minnesota outgained Michigan State 312 yards to 45 yards by halftime. 312 to 45. Minnesota picked up 19 first downs to Michigan State's 3 by halftime. And the Spartans had run just 19 plays in the entire first half. Also, my man, your man, my dark horse for the Heisman Trophy, Muhammad Ibrahim, goes for over 100 yards for the 13th consecutive time. He is the first player to rush for more than 100 yards against Michigan State in their last 16 games. In Michigan State's last 16 games, he's the only dude to rush for over 100 yards. He's got 13 straight. Now, because I'm me, I asked Fox Sports researcher David Albiani, hey, who's got the record for the most 100-yard rushing games in a row? And I'm sure that Ohio State fans are barking at me because I just didn't know it off the top of my head, but I need to be told by the peerless Albiani that is Archie Griffin, who rushed for who had 31 straight games of 100-yard rushing. So Mel Ibrahim ain't going to get anywhere near that. You know what I'm saying? But Minnesota does look like the team that's going to come out of the Big Ten West. That means I got them beating Iowa. That means I got them beating Wisconsin presently and representing the Big Ten West in what I think is going to be a showdown between Ohio State and Michigan for the Big Ten championship. Here for it. The boat doesn't need to be rowed because PJ Fleck has put a motor on the back of it and said, we're gone. That's how it feels over there. It's good to be a Golden Gopher. From that game back to the Big 12, let's go. Texas Tech upsets Texas, number 22 Texas, 37-34 in OT. And before I get into this game, I want you to hear what Joey McGuire had to say to his locker room after the game.
Hey, I asked you to keep fighting. You did. Said it's going to be, when we came out of half, we had 2 more rounds to fight, and you did. I told you they were going to break, and they did. Yes, sir. I told you they were going to break, and did. The reporter asked me at the end, says, what's it mean to win this game and beat Texas? I said, it doesn't mean anything to beat Texas. We're 1-0 in the Big 12. Yeah. That's what it means. I'm telling y'all right now, the country's going to find out. Everything runs through Lubbock. Everything runs through Lubbock. Hey.
All right. There's a lot there. First of all, full marks to Coach McGuire for the best post-game speech of 2022. Okay? Let's unpack that for just a second. First thing he said that caught my attention was that it ain't nothing to beat Texas. Whatever, man. Wow. Okay, that was going to leave a mark in the state of Texas, okay? All right? Texas is the flagship school in the state of Texas. That's where everybody's tax dollars go, okay? Tyler Rose, Ricky Williams, Vince Young, 05, everybody understand. Coach McGuire, who's in the Texas High School Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame, try saying that 5 times fast, also just said, nah, it ain't nothing to beat Texas. What it is we want to know in the Big 12, which means Texas Tech, Kansas State. My God. Baylor. What is this Big 12? It's super deep, but I didn't expect my Oklahoma Sooners to be at the bottom of it. My goodness. And then the next thing he said in there that I thought was really interesting is everything runs through Lubbock. Lord, I hope not. Lord, I hope not. But I get what you mean. Okay? It ain't exactly a freeway running to Lubbock, Texas. You know what I mean? You've been to Lubbock, Texas. You understand what I'm saying there, right? Even Lubbock, Texas fans, even Texas Tech Raider fans understand, yeah, you got to want it to go to Lubbock. And you know what? Maybe that is the point. You're going to have to want to go to Lubbock to go and beat down Texas Tech to get something like respect in the Big 12 this year. And I think that's nothing to sneeze at. Their losses against an undefeated North Carolina State that I already thought was going to be good. When I looked at this game on the schedule, I already said, okay, McGuire's got this one circled, even if you don't want to tell anybody. Because Texas put up 77 on Texas Tech last year, and Texas Tech has not beaten Texas till today in Lubbock since 2008, when we know Mike Crabtree toe-touched in the end zone. Matter of fact, it's one of my favorite stories ever about football, where you got Graham Harrell, who's the offensive coordinator at West Virginia. You got Michael Crabtree, who's going into College Football Hall of Fame, even if he got his chain snatched by my man Aqib Talib, also a Kansas grad, saying to Mike Leach, yo, man, let us go for it. Let us go for the win on a where they had to go for the win. And Mike Leach just says, go run 4 verticals. And they ran 4 verticals. And Mike Crabtree bent it. Mike Crabtree took it in. They upset a number 1 ranked Texas. Pretty great. It's pretty awesome. And then they get this win against Steve Sarkisian and Texas today, even as Bert Auburn, apparently, as producer Cat had said, learned from his mistakes against Alabama. My goodness. And then Bijan Robinson, who never puts the ball on the ground. Like a Najee Harris never put the ball on the ground, put the ball on the ground in overtime. Texas Tech recovered. They were able to go get the win. Congratulations to the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who are living their best lives, fresh off of being crowned College Football on Fox's best fans in the country because they won that poll against my Oklahoma Sooners. We just catching L's in all the wrong ways this year, man. Texas Tech upsets Texas 37-34 in overtime, and now we got a real fight for the Big 12 championship in a way that we haven't in years, I think. This is going to be so fascinating to watch. I'm very excited to see what the Big 12 can do going into the rest of 2022. Real quick, number 23, Texas A&M hangs on to beat number 10, Arkansas 23-21. A&M needed Arkansas kicker to take one off the top of the uprights at Jerry World to seal this victory, and then had the nerve to go celebrate like they'd done something. A&M's third straight win, though, against an AP top 10 opponent, which means that they only play well against the good teams, because Appalachian State, while being good, is not a top 10 team. Like, A&M, make it make sense here. I think Arkansas is going to bounce back from this. They showed a lot of fight toward the end. KJ Jefferson still willing to put his shoulders down, put him into the chest of a linebacker or safety. Anybody who wants to get in his way. I think Arkansas is still going to be tough the rest of the way. You get a win against Alabama, you get a win against Ole Miss, and then you're right back in this, because I think A&M might show themselves once again not to be able to hold up against, let's say, LSU when that time comes. But for now, A&M, good for you. You got a nice win against Arkansas. See if you can carry that through the rest of 2022. Let's go. Number 15, Oregon comes back to beat Washington State 44-34. This game was super wild. Like, from the pick 6 on the goal line that Auburn Bo Nix threw to Washington State, to Oregon Bo Nix coming through for 428 pass yards, completing 75% of his passes, and generally playing like a Pac-12 player of the year. All over the map this game was, even as it didn't feel like Oregon could get any pass rush, they still had great offensive line play. I thought that the Washington State defense was playing outstanding football. I think they're going to be really tough the rest of the way. I like Washington State. I don't think their win against Wisconsin was a fluke, and I don't think that Wisconsin is as bad as Ohio State made them look today, even if they're not as good as Minnesota. Pac-12 is going to be really, really fun to watch. As we're doing the show, Oregon State giving USC still everything you can handle. Very excited to see how this ends. And also, I want to know the answer to this question. Who the hell is Oregon? Are you the team that gets dunked on 49-3 by Georgia? Or are you the team that beats a top 25 BYU and comes back to beat a really good Washington State? We'll see, right? I also really love Kansas beating Duke 35-27, moved to 4-0. Okay. I am taking a quiet joy in Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks moving to 4-0 for the first time since 2009. Taking a quiet joy in Jalen Daniels absolutely being a dude. 19 of 23, 324 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 11 rushes, 83 yards. Rank Kansas, you cowards. Now, the thing for you to take away from this is not just that Kansas sold out its stadium, 47,000 it holds. I made the quip on the Twitters that Kansas sold out a game in 2022 before USC did, to which people said USC has a 77,000 seat Coliseum, to which I say, explain Oklahoma to me now, who has 85,000, 3 million people living in the state, half of them claim to be Oklahoma State fans. Then explain Nebraska to me, which also seats more than 80,000 people and hasn't been good in over a decade, okay? If you love football, you love football. And Kansas is a football school. The part for you to really, really hammer in to anybody who wants to talk about this, though, is that Lance Leipold has never once acted like this is a fluke or how he's happy to be here. Every step of the way, Lance Leipold has said, no, it's nice. It's a nice win. You know, it's nice that we got to show a little heart today. That's the confidence that you can have in your program when you have won 6 national championships. Hello. Look, there's a reason why I like Lance Leipold hired. It's 1, Travis Goff and Lance Leipold have a great relationship. And 2, Lance has won everywhere he's gone. Why wouldn't he not win at Kansas? It took him less than a year to flip that program. And now everybody is on notice. Kansas, Kansas State, Baylor, Texas Tech. These, Oklahoma State, idle this week. These are the bastions of Big 12 football right now. I love this. This is so much fun, except when my team loses. Yeah, but that's what it is. Georgia looks mortal. Defeats Kent State 39-22. Okay, I had a lot to say about this game. Started off real well, and then Oklahoma lost. But I'm just going to go through it right quick as I had a lot to say about it. Kent State scored more on number 1 Georgia in the first half with 13 points. Then number 15 Oregon and South Carolina combined for 10 points. Oklahoma held Kent State 3 points. Georgia gave up 13 in the first half. Okay, and then Oklahoma gets 41 put on his head by Kansas State. Georgia also allowed more points to Kent State, 22, than it did to every other opponent it played all season. Sanford, South Carolina, and of course, Oregon. And then my favorite note from that game, there are only 2 teams who have scored at least 22 points against Georgia dating back to the start of the 2021 season. One of them is Kent State. The other one is Alabama. So either Kent State is really damn good or Georgia is not as good. I'm willing to bet that Georgia is every bit as good as we thought they were last week, that they overlooked Kent State, and that Kent State is also a very good football team who's been doing nothing but barnstorming, right? Like you look at their schedule so far, and it's not easy. You had Oklahoma, you beat up on Long Island, you had Georgia. I think there's another game in there that I'm missing that they had a play game, but they absolutely showed themselves to be a class football program while playing these play games. Georgia also outgained Kent State 529 yards to 281 yards, but committed 3 turnovers. One of those, I watched Stetson Bennett DHL an interception to a Kent State Golden Flash. Kent State also came out there with some gnarly formations, giving all the offensive linemen goosebumps. And Ladd McConkey might actually still be running after that game. I think he had a muff punt, drop pass for touchdown, a fumble. It's just a bad day for that dude playing wide receiver at Georgia. I'm sure that Kirby Smart is going to eat off this game for a very long time, not unlike Nick Saban still eating off of the Texas win 2019. And then last segment of the show, favorite segment of the show, Middle Tennessee stuns number 25, Miami, 45-31. It's not just that Middle Tennessee beat Miami 45-31 at the Hard Rock in Miami Gardens. It's that the Miami Hurricanes paid $1.5 million for the privilege. Miami, I said you've been had. You've been took. I said you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. This is what he does. Middle Tennessee, Blue Raiders, put the shimmy in the shag. Miami, put the money in the bag. Oh, yeah. I love it. I love it. With the cash at the end. All right. That's going to do it for tonight's Saturday recap show, week 4, not week 5. We will be back tomorrow to react to the Associated Press Top 25 and to talk about my own Top 25 rankings, which you can find later tonight on the Fox Sports app. My thanks as always to our lead producer, Tyler Wojak. Our senior producer is Catherine Donnelly. Our director is John Marcus. Social media maven is Javion Duncan. Our lead of screening is Rachel Cohn. I'm the host, RJ. Niles Owens on the switches. Niles, thank you being on the switches, because I doggone sure can't do that and do this show. That's it for me. Deuces.